Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of The All-In Show here on the Clemson Football Voice of College Football channel. I'm your host, Jordan Bowman, here with my co-host, Tiger Paw Craven, who is live from his vehicle right now.
That's right.
Of course, back-to-back weeks, we kind of took turns, alternating being on the phone. So this is gonna be really fun. But thank you guys for tuning in. Florida State week is here. We've been waiting on this one. We've had this game circled all off season, and it is finally here. And this team will be kicking off in just under 36 hours, I guess, from now. So just really excited, and thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit subscribe. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of viewers that are non-Clemson fans because obviously this is a big game. So please consider leaving us a like and subscribing as well if you want to hear more from us in the future. But yeah, Craven, how have you been this week, man?
Man, I've been good. I tell you, it's been a busy week with work, but it's been an exciting week. This is kind of the game that everybody's circled on the calendar in preseason, right? I mean, you go back to summer, you go back to fall camp. This has kind of been the the game that has been circled as the showdown for the ACC. A lot of people preseason had these two teams meeting again in Charlotte for the ACC championship game. That story has yet to unfold properly. With Clemson dropping a game week 1 to Duke, so we did not hold up our end of the bargain. A lot of people thought preseason that this would be a college game day type of atmosphere where they would come. We would have college game day in town. It'd be a night game in the Valley. It would be crazy. Most exciting 25 seconds in college football, the whole deal. And that just did not come to fruition because Clemson, frankly, just didn't take care of business. So here we are. We have a top 5 ranked Seminole team that is rolling into Death Valley for a noon. Yeah, that's right. I repeat, a noon kickoff game in the Valley, Florida State and Clemson. But I tell you what, if you ask these two fan bases, it has not lost any luster as far as I can tell. Florida State wants this game bad. This is one of those games where Florida State really wants to get over the hump. It's been 7 years since they beat the Tigers. It's been a long road. They kind of dipped away and kind of, fell off for many, many years. There's a couple blowouts in between. So they are very hungry to beat the Tigers. And I think the Tigers are equally as hungry. They know what they got. You heard this Clemson team talk a lot of, big aspirations for this season. And dropping week 1 makes you have to play essentially what is a playoff game every single week. And that's essentially what Clemson is doing. We talked about it. Was that Tuesday? Tuesday on the Not Bobby Durkin show, that Clemson can't afford to lose this game if we're being completely honest. That would make them 0-2 in the ACC, and that would put them behind the 8 ball for even hoping for an appearance in the ACC championship game, much less winning it. So there's a lot of stuff riding on this game. I'm super excited. There's been so much build-up for this game. It's going to be exciting. I know it's a noon kickoff, but I looked earlier, and it's already a sold-out crowd for Death Valley. So the fans are going to be there early. It's going to be a raucous crowd. It's going to be insane, no matter what time the ball's kicked off. But huge missed opportunity for the ACC as a conference and the ACC network. Honestly, I don't care if Clemson's not ranked. Whatever, that is what it is. But you're really going to put this game on at noon. I just feel like that's a missed opportunity. But oh well. That's the most ACC thing to do ever.
Yep. Yeah, man. I totally agree. But I mean, we're here now, and at the end of the day, this is still a big game for both programs. And, Clemson losing in week 1 in some ways added a little bit more intrigue because I think this game now has a lot more bigger, scope as far as, Clemson as a program and Florida State as a program. There's a lot of storylines now heading into this game. We talked all offseason about how the differing styles of approaches between Mike Norvell and Dabo Swinney were going to be clashing. But now it's really going to be put to the test because, Clemson is in wounded animal mode right now. Florida State is riding high. Obviously not the best performance last week, but they're still undefeated. And the team looks to be a playoff caliber team like they were expecting in the preseason. But they haven't beaten Clemson since 2014. There's there's that mental aspect that I think they need to overcome, and winning this game, signifies a lot for Mike Norvell and his tenure and what Florida State looks like moving forward. Because you could see it could be a changing of the guard of sorts, kind of like when Clemson took down Florida State back in 2015.
Yep.
It could be something similar to that, and maybe Florida State reasserts itself as the premier program in the conference. So a lot of intrigue in this game. We'll be here to break it all down. But I want to give a shout out to the comment section real quick. We've got about 42 listening right now. Probably going to get a little bit more as the show goes on. But let's see who we got in here. We got my man WB2DX, otherwise known as Tiggs. Not me.
What's up?
He says, "Go Tigers." Good to see you, man. As I already mentioned, Tiggs. Droid 132 F Andrew Creel. That is an incredible nickname. I don't know if I've seen you before, but that is an incredible screen name. That's probably the wildest one I've seen. That sounds cool.
That's
though.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Our other mod, along with Tiggs, John Sarian. Good to see you. He says, whole lot of confidence in Noldum and across a good bit of the media that Clemson won't play a great game. Funny that odds makers don't see it that way. +2 or 2.5 isn't a lot of confidence. Yeah, I mean, especially when you consider the amount of money coming in on Florida State side, and the line hasn't budged since it opened at 2.5. So, and some betting models have this game closer to a pick'em. So it does add a lot of intrigue to this game, and it makes you think that it is a weird game of sorts, because it's not often you see a top 5 team be this short of a favorite against an unranked opponent. So the game still has a lot of intrigue for that reason, even if this isn't the top 10 billing that we all thought it would be heading into the season.
Yeah, Clemson's obviously still getting a lot of respect when it comes to the casinos and the guys that set the line and stuff like that. Clearly, they're not seeing this as being quite a big a gap as maybe some fans and some other national media types and stuff are seeing the game playing out.
Absolutely. We got Connor Johnson in here, our resident Oregon State fan. He says, "Go DJ, go Taters." Hey, we appreciate that, Connor, and yes, go DJ.
Absolutely.
Hope to
go Beavs. Well. Go Beavs.
Go Bees.
Yeah.
Steel Gamble, another regular. He says Clemson fans don't have any faith in their team. I wouldn't say so. I think the fan base is kind of split on this game. I've seen a lot of Clemson fans that are feeling actually pretty, I wouldn't say confident, but they think this team is a lot better than what they've shown through 3 weeks, and that they can absolutely win this game.
Yeah, there's some optimism out there by some Clemson fans. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't go, like you said, all the way to confidence, but there is some optimism out there for some Tiger fans. But I mean, I think, a certain loud portion of the Clemson fan base is telling you that, no shot. They're not going to win this game. And part of that is probably, a little bit of trepidation due to the past 2 seasons and, frankly, some of what we've seen early this season. So there's some validity to some of that. And, some of it is just, they're gonna not believe until it's proven on the field, which, that's their prerogative, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think both sides, are perfectly valid in their opinion. If you're a pessimist, I mean, I don't blame you. If you're an optimist, I don't blame you either. I think there are reasons to feel good, and there are reasons to be a little bit hesitant about this game. So, and we'll talk about it further. Tim is in here. Good to see you, man. He says Redemption Saturday, as I call it. So, yeah, this is a big opportunity for Clemson, and I do think that's
huge.
I do think in a way that losing to Duke has it makes it a bigger opportunity in this game to really reassert themselves. And hey, if a top 5 win at home, hey, I mean this will be. It's been 20 years since Clemson hosted an unranked Florida State. I'm sorry, an unranked Clemson hosted a top 5 Florida State team, and if those of you that are, I was like 4 years old when this game was played, which I'm sorry if I made anyone in the audience feel old.
All right, that's enough. That's enough, Jordan. Okay, we don't need to talk about how old you were when the game was played. That's not relevant.
But I'm sure a lot of fans remember that 26-10 victory over number 4 Florida State back in 2003. That was a marquee win and one of the biggest wins of the Tommy Bowden tenure. And and what's funny about that is we did play Duke that season as well, but we didn't lose to them. But And in the week before, we had gotten blown out 45-17 by Wake Forest. So, there's some similarities to how this game is sort of playing out and setting up.
That was the epitome of the Tommy Bell there right there. Lose a game like that, and then go beat a top 3 Florida State team somehow.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Like Mike is in here. Good to see you, man. Scott Davis, should be a great game in Death Valley. He says FSU is hungry. I think he's a Florida State fan. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
We are simulcasting to the Florida State Voice of College Football channel as well, so I'm sure we'll have some Florida State fans in the chat. Michael says, I'm waiting for all the excuses from Florida State when they lose. Michael calling this shot. I like the energy, man. I like the energy.
There you go. That's what college football is all about, man.
All right. I'm not going to, since we have a lot more people, I'm probably not going to get to everybody. So let's go ahead and kind of get into it. I guess to start, what does this team have to show you on Saturday, regardless of the result? Because I think that's something that we need to start with. Because again, while this game has a lot of importance and magnitude, all that, Clemson still after this game has 8 more regular season games to play. So, what do you need to see from this team on Saturday to make you feel good, possibly about this team kind of growing into what we thought it would be in the preseason?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Jordan, there's a lot of things that this team has to show me come Saturday, most of which, if I can put it into the most basic form that I possibly can, it's they got to show heart. They got to show the unwillingness to quit, the unwillingness to be fazed by the moment. I know this is a team that has some age to them, right? This is not a freshman-laden team, even though some of our contributors are very young guys. We do have a lot of veteran experience on this team. We've talked about it in the offseason. We talked about it in fall camp leading up to the season, the amount of guys that returned, right? So I need to see this team come out and just refuse to quit, regardless of what happens. They need to ride the emotion of this game. And what that means to me is, if there's a turnover here or there's a bad play there or a bounce of ball type of play doesn't go your way.
Uh-oh. Yes, I think I don't know if that's just me, but I think we lost Tiger Paw Craven. Are you back?
Hey, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I had a call come through my phone. But
perfect time.
This team has to have the ability to overcome adversity, because when you're playing a team like Florida State, let's face it, there will be adversity in this game. And we've all talked about Clemson's issues with turnovers early in the season. It's well documented in the Duke game. We don't need to rehash that. But we even turned the ball over in the Charleston Southern game. Now that got cleaned up to a degree playing Florida Atlantic last week, right? So that needs to continue. We need to play a clean game. But if that adversity comes, these seniors, these guys, they have to have what they have to show me is the ability to close circle, right? Look inward. Don't fall to the pressure. Don't fall to the momentum, and continue to fight and claw, and make this a close game. Make this a game where Florida State is uncomfortable the entire game. Don't let Florida State come out and possibly break a big play, and suddenly you're laying down, right? I need to see some heart. I need to see some ability to push through adversity from this team. They've showed it a little bit so far this season, but not to this degree. not to the degree of the opponent that we are playing. So just that's kind of overarching type stuff before we get into the specifics of the matchup, Jordan.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you. I think the mentality of this team. I know Dabo talked this week about the team isn't really playing. He's not treating this as a game where they need to play with a chip on their shoulder, but I think they do because
Absolutely.
I think Clemson's pride as a program is on the line here because there's a lot of the national media is not giving them much of an opportunity in this game, even though the betting line is pretty tight. There's a lot of money coming in on Florida State. A lot of media predictions expect Florida State to win. So I do think there needs to be that mentality of, hey, one, we're playing at home. No one beats us at home. That should be the mentality they go in with, protecting home field. But again, just being the team that's disrespected, that's something that Clemson hasn't really been able to be in a while. So this is an opportunity to kind of use some of that as motivation for sure. And I think this team, I think I want to see this team play with a chip on their shoulder and be like, well, no one believes in us, but we're going to come out. We know we are confident in our ability and our preparation and what we've done this week. And we're going to go out and show them that we're every bit as good and if not better than they are. So I think that's number one. But yeah, this is a game where this team really needs to, put it all together mentally, and they need to be able to push through that adversity, as you said.
Yeah.
But let's dive into let's dive into the matchup itself. Let's start with I kind of want to go offense, defense, and kind of kind of jump a little bit all over the place. I don't want to really break it down. We'll talk about the offense versus the defense first, and then the defense versus the offense. I kind of just want to, talk about the things that concern us, the things that we think this team will be able to do well in this game. What are you kind of looking for? What aspects of the game do you think this team will be able to do well?
Well, I honestly think for Clemson, as far as on the offensive side of the ball goes, things that they will be able to do well. When you look at Florida State so far this season, their pass defense does leave something to be desired. And I know they went to the transfer portal and they tried to plug some holes there, and they've done a lot to try to improve that. However, that hasn't really come to fruition this season for the Seminoles. So there is plays to be made there, first and foremost in the secondary for the Seminoles. Here's the problem, though. Florida State has a really, really, really good offensive line. Let's just be frank about it, right? Frankly, they got a great defensive line. They're going to come after the Tigers. Our pass pro has been something of an issue this season. We've talked about it, I feel like, in every post-game live that we've done, Jordan, to this point. We've talked about, the pass pro was maybe good here, but it broke down here. Specifically, our tackles, right? Specifically, Blake Miller, Tristan Lay, Colin Sadler, those guys. We really need those tackles to step up because although I do believe that Florida State has a secondary where plays can be made by the Tigers, I do believe that we have the ability to make those plays. It's going to come down to protection. And if Florida State is overwhelming our offensive line, specifically the tackle position, the three interior guys have been pretty solid all season, outside of, situations here or there. But if they're going to bring five, sometimes six people and just come after Cade, we've seen him get uncomfortable. We've seen him have poor decision making at times, especially when he's pressured and he doesn't have time to go through his progressions and get comfortable and step up in the pocket. So, I think there's plays to be made for the Clemson offense in the secondary, but we are going to have to effectively run the ball. Now, that's probably not going. That's a lot easier to say than it is to do. But Clemson is going to have to effectively run the ball. I just spent a long time talking about their secondary, but we are going to have to. Running the ball effectively will cause them to have to stop pinning their ears back and coming after Cade so much. So I think it's kind of a twofold thing. Clemson is going to have to be a balanced offense on Saturday. They're going to have to run the ball effectively with Phil Maffa and Will Shipley, and maybe Dominique Thomas in there as well as the third guy. But it's going to take our best effort of the season in order to keep us in this game and give us a chance to win. We're going to have to make Florida State respect the running game. And then hopefully our offensive line can hold up enough. There's going to be times where they break down. Let's just face it. There is. Florida State is far too good along the defensive line. But if we can make them respect the run enough, maybe that gives us enough reprieve in the passing game to exploit some of those shortcomings that they have in the secondary. And I think we really do have guys that can exploit it. I know the big thing about Clemson is, they don't have a number one guy. They don't have that guy that's a game breaker that can take over a game. And although that is true in some sense, we do got guys that are absolute playmakers. So that's kind of the thing on the offensive side that I'm really looking for. It's going to come down to the offensive line, really. And then, really that wide receiver group. They're going to have to come out and ball. They got to create that separation. They got to help Cade out because I got a feeling he's going to be under some immense pressure in this game from that Florida State defensive line.
Yeah, and you really hit on it with the run game, because I think for this Clemson team to be successful offensively, they have to stay ahead of the chains. If Clemson is caught if they're not being efficient on first down and getting positive yardage and getting caught in second, third, and longs where Florida State and more obvious passing downs where Florida State can kind of tee off, they're going to send pressure because through 3 games, Cade has not shown the ability to handle pressure particularly well. He's had moments where he's escaped pressure and found the guy, but he's also had moments where he is, takes a sack or he panics and throws the ball into danger. And so I think obviously they're not dumb. They have a very good coaching staff. They know exactly what Cade's strengths and weaknesses are. So in that sense, you have to help him out. You can't be caught in second, third, and longs. You have to be efficient on first down, getting positive yardage, and that way the playbook stays open. You can call whatever you want on 2nd and 5 versus 2nd and 10, or 3rd and 3 versus 3rd and 8. Those kind of situational differences, make a huge difference in how Clemson can call the game and how Garrett Riley can scheme things up. So that has to be first and foremost, running the ball. And that's something that Clemson, the past 2 years against Florida State, they've been able to do well. Will Shipley has been kind of a thorn in their side. They've obviously addressed some of those issues that they had on the interior, especially of the defensive line and the transfer portal. But they still, watching Florida State through 3 games, they still had moments where they haven't defended the run very well. And so I think that has to be a part of this offense. And Garrett Riley's offense is predicated on being able to run the ball. So if Clemson does that, then I think this is going to be a competitive ball game. But if Cade is caught in those 3rd and longs too often, it's going to be tough for this offense to really get moving, because it makes things a lot easier. And when you have an inexperienced quarterback that's prone to make mistakes, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'd rather bet on that and send pressure on a guy that I know has not handled it well in the past. And if he beats us with his arm and he just makes incredible plays, then so be it. And he has the best game he's had all season. So be it. So yeah, running the ball first and foremost, and I think that's kind of obvious and kind of something that every offense wants to be able to do. But it's also important for Clemson in this game, especially since they have not shown the ability to be explosive. While the numbers on paper look good, they haven't shown the ability to be explosive. They only have a couple of plays over 20, 30 yards.
Yeah.
So, being hyper efficient and going on these long 10, 11 play drives is great, but against better defenses and against better competition, it's going to be difficult to get away with that. And you saw that we've already seen that against Duke.
Yeah, and frankly, against this Florida State defense, if Clemson, I mean, let's just be honest, if Clemson cannot create explosive plays against this Florida State defense, we're gonna have a lot of trouble. We're gonna be in trouble in this game if we can't create explosive plays, and then that's part of the worry if you're a Clemson fan going into this Florida State game, especially if you're talking Clemson side of the field on offense, is our inability really so far this season to really stretch the field, to really push the ball downfield. I think we're last in the ACC as far as yards per completion for explosive plays down the field, right? So it's not something that we've shown the ability to consistently do. Although we've had plays here or there, it hasn't been consistent. So it's one of those things. You're not going to go on. You're probably not going to go on 5 or 6 methodical drives against a defense that is this good in Florida State. It's probably not going to happen. So you're going to have to create some chunk plays, whether those be big runs on the ground, whether those be explosive plays in the passing game, whether it be a big punt return. All aspects of the game are going to have to perform well for us to have a chance against Florida State. It's a really good defense, and to think that you're just going to sit here and methodically move down the field the entire game, that's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen for Florida State either. I mean, we'll get to the Clemson defensive side of things as well, but it's just that's not a good plan going into it. You're going to have to create explosive plays if you're Clemson to stay in this game.
Absolutely. And how much do you think Cade in the run game is going to factor? Because we talked about it, and Florida State has not been particularly great against the quarterback run game through 3 games, and you saw in that Boston College game, Tommy Castellanos, who is an incredible athlete. I don't think I don't think Cade is quite up to that level, but Cade, we know Cade can run. He's absolutely a threat with his legs. How much do you think he's going to factor into this? I think he kind of has to in some instances, because I think that just adds another element of the offense that Florida State has to defend. But I do think at the very least, Clemson. Cade is going to have moments where guys aren't open downfield, and he's going to have to scramble and make plays with his legs.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of my point, Jordan, heading into this game. If you've watched Clemson football for any amount of time, and yes, I realize we have a new offensive coordinator, it's a completely new scheme and all of that, but there's still some bones here that Garrett Riley always did that Clemson used to do as well, right? And one of the things I think is the quarterback run. We started seeing it last week a little bit more. Cade's decision making becoming better, his mental clock starting to really be effective in a game. So when coverage was good downfield and protection started to break down, you saw him starting to break out the pocket, whether that was stepping up and running down the middle of the field or breaking the perimeter of the pocket if defensive ends weren't setting the edge, right, and gaining a couple of yards. I think that's going to be pivotal in this game against Florida State because I do think protection is going to be an issue in this game. I think they're going to come after Cade. I think that's going to be part of Florida State's game plan. And if it's not, I would be shocked, right? Because he's proven that when put under pressure, he can have the ability to make poor plays and poor decisions with the football. So why wouldn't you come after him? Especially if you trust the back of your defense and you think Clemson wide receivers can't get separation. I would absolutely come after Cade. So I think that's going to be part of their game plan. Um, and Cade's ability to extend plays with his legs and then otherwise make a broken play or a play that is well covered and protection starts to break down, if he can turn that into 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 yards here and there, I think it will make a huge difference in the game. And if we're going to be successful, I think Cade is going to have to create with his legs on Saturday, especially when you think about the defensive front that Clemson's going to be facing. Um, you know, it's going to be a huge part. It's always been a huge part of Clemson's offense. It's always been something that they've done. And Cade, I mean, you look at him. He's obviously he's not a track guy. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's athletic. He can damage. He can do some damage with his legs. So, I think if he's used as a weapon in the running game this week, as far as scrambling out of the pocket and turning a negative into a positive when protection really does break down. That's kind of a backbreaker for a defense. When their coverage is good on the back end and they're getting to the quarterback and suddenly it's a broken play, but the offense still gets 6 yards. The offense still gets 8 yards. That's a backbreaker for a defense. It's frustrating for a defense to deal with. And I think Cade's capable of it, and it'll probably have to be something that Clemson leans on a little bit more in this game.
Absolutely. And, since we already talked about it, well, we kind of touched on it, but we didn't really go in depth. Let's talk about the wide receivers because, as you said, they're going to have to make plays in this game. They're going to have to get open. They're going to have to get some separation, and this team has to hit at least. If they're not, they don't have to, completely rely on explosive plays, but they're going to have to hit some because this team hasn't shown the ability against really strong competition to be able to sustain long drives and be able to finish. So if we can't trust them to do that, they're going to have to hit big plays, and that's going to start with these wide receivers and tight ends, but especially the wide receivers. Who are you looking to really make an impact in this game? Because we've seen flashes from multiple guys, but we don't really feel like we have that consistent playmaker yet. We've just seen, where the potential is and that what this group can become down the road, but it has not completely materialized yet. So who do you think, steps up in this game?
Yeah, well, if I'm being honest, it's gonna really have to be multiple guys. If I'm being completely honest, all Clemson fans know that we lost Cole Turner to injury last week, so Cole Turner won't be a part of the game. And regardless of what you think about Cole Turner, that's a huge loss for this Clemson offense. He was kind of, that burner. He was kind of that deep down the field guy that could really expose a defense if they weren't paying attention to him. But he's out for the season now with 3 torn abductor muscles. He's got to have surgery. He's going to be out for the season. But I'm telling you, a guy that emerged last week, Tyler Brown, right? That's a guy that could become a consistent contributor and a problem for defenses when you're talking about the Clemson wide receiving core. I really like what I saw out of Tyler Brown. I don't know how consistent it'll be because, again, he's a true freshman. He's a summer enrollee. He's a guy that literally just went through fall camp, and here he is, right? Local South Carolina guy, but he is out there balling out. We know what Antonio Williams did last year. He's continued to really be a playmaker this year, maybe to a lesser extent than maybe he was last year. But then you got Bo Collins, and I'm going to talk about Bo Collins for a little bit. to me, he has to step up and be the alpha. And I know he didn't do a lot last week. He had, he had a drop or two. I specifically think of that one over on the sideline that was just an inexplicable drop by Bo Collins after having that huge week against Charleston Southern. Um, I really look to him. I think this wide receiving core has a lot of talent. I really do. I think they have a ton of talent. I think what this wide receiving core lacks the most is a true alpha, a true leader. And to me, the best candidate for that is a Bo Collins. He has been here, a significant amount of time. He has been here and produced for a significant amount of time, although he's battled injuries. When he has been healthy, or generally just when he's on the field, he does make plays. He has been the most consistent wide receiver. So we really need Bo Collins to step up. He's got to come to play this game. He's got to take over. He's got to own the spotlight. He's got to own the responsibility. To me, he's got to be Clemson's alpha receiver. He's got to step in. He's got to take that role, and he's just got to do it. He's the alpha, in my opinion, if I had to pick anyone out of this wide receiving core. I know how good Antonio Williams is. I know how amazing Tyler Brown's game was last week. But again, that was one game. I think he can be a really big contributor for the Tigers. But if you ask me, it's Bo Collins. We need Bo Collins to step up and do what he can do. And he can be special. But he's got to become a lot more consistent. And if it's going to happen, it's got to start this week. This is the game.
Absolutely. And I think some of the guys surrounding him, obviously, they're going to have to make the plays when called on as well. It's going to take a complete effort, but you need your alpha to really be that guy. And we've talked about Tyler Brown, Antonio Williams, Adam Randall, who seemed to find a little bit of a downfield presence last week. I hope to see more of that. That really needs to be a big part of Clemson's offense, along with the run game. Because if you are staying ahead of the chains, it makes things that much easier.
You got to take shots.
And yeah, you have to take shots. And I think Garrett Riley I think he wants to. And yeah. I think what the good thing is I do think Florida State has shown in the past a kind of inconsistency between, communication wise in the secondary when it comes to their safeties and corners. I think their corners are really, really good. But I don't think the safety play has been up to where they kind of want it to. They have some inexperience there. And it kind of showed last week and it showed at times in their other games as well. So that communication between the safeties and corners, especially when offenses are, motioning guys out, when teams are, running, trips, and switch releases and stuff like that, that really forces the corners to be in communication, passing off guys. That kind of stuff, I do think Florida State's defense is vulnerable. And I think that's something that Garrett Riley has done well in the past of manipulating the eyes of the defensive backs with motion and stuff like that. So I think you're going to see a lot of that in this game as well. Get Florida State's defense, get their eyes moving side to side and making them unsure of what they're doing. So I think you'll see a lot of that on Saturday as well. Anything else about this offense? We talked about. Oh, I do want to address the kind of the injury concerns right now on the offensive line. Obviously, Walker Parks, a guy that suffered an injury last week, did not play. Did not play against FAU, and practiced on Tuesday, but they held him out yesterday. It kind of Dabo is never going to be forefront about these kind of injury concerns and injury situations, but it seems like there's a chance that Clemson could be without him on Saturday. So
I think,
that.
I think it's a good chance, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not good for this Tiger. I mean, we saw what happened last year when Walker Parks couldn't go. We talked about it, at length in some of our post game lives last year about how we noticed a significant difference when he went down with injury, right? And I'm not sure the injury that he's struggling with. You remember hearing way back when, before the season started, or I think it was actually Duke week when the rumors came out that Walker Parks was in a walking boot, and things like that. So I don't know if he's dealing with, maybe a high ankle sprain or something like that. And that's one of those injuries that kind of just lingers and lingers and lingers, and it's something that really never goes away, especially if you're going to keep playing, and keep practicing. And that the high ankle sprain is something that crosses my mind because I hear he's a full go on Tuesday, and then Wednesday they hold him out. So I mean, that's one of those injuries that are easy to retweak and tweak again. And, it kind of never really feels right. You just it's about like kind of a pain tolerance type of deal. So it would be a significant loss, I think, for this offensive line. I talked about, how I've been relatively happy with the interior of the line. And a big portion of that is Walker Parks. So if he can't go, I think that's a big deal in this game. I really do.
Yeah, and I think you'll probably see Mitchell Mays. He seems to be the guy that they trust the most to play up next. And I don't know. It just we've seen moments where he's played well and moments where he hasn't. So that is a concern for me. As far as the interior of this offensive line goes. And I think we talked about the tackle play. I think you see Colin Sadler get the start on Saturday at left tackle.
Yeah.
I don't really have any inside, info on that, but it feels like when he's in the game, things are a little bit smoother. I think he plays with a little bit more physicality and that mean streak that I think you have to have at left tackle, because you have especially when you have a right-handed quarterback, you have the most important job, especially in pass pro. So, yeah, it's not a great situation to be in as far as the Clemson offensive line is concerned right now. And I think that means it's going to change the game plan a little bit. And there's going to be times where they have to give him Cade time to throw, but you're also going to see Clemson try to, get the ball out quickly, hopefully get the ball in space to their quicker guys and get some, yards after catch opportunities. So, managing that is going to be something that's going to be really interesting to see for this team and how Garrett Riley chooses to utilize his personnel, given the injuries. I do think that's going to be something to watch as well. But yeah, we've talked. I think we've talked pretty much everything about the offense.
Yeah.
Defensively, I feel I strangely feel more positive. I don't know. I don't know if it's strange, but I think defensively, Clemson matches up with Florida State pretty well. At least better than any team they faced. At least.
Yeah.
I think this is. You can argue, LSU defensive line is better than Clemson's. We could have a talk about that. But I do think that this is the best secondary that Florida State has played this year. And especially given that LSU had known issues in the secondary going into that game, a lot of inexperience, and they had a lot of transfers and guys, new guys playing in that week 1 game. What do you think? I think this defense is well equipped to. I don't think they're going to stop, neutralize Florida State's offense. They've got too many playmakers. They're really good.
Yeah.
They're going to score points, but I do think they'll be able to get stops in this game.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And look, that's going to be the key for this Clemson defense in this game. You just hit it, Jordan. You hit the nail on the head right there. Getting key stops in this game. So what does that look like? That looks like forcing Florida State into a couple field goals. in this game, not letting them capitalize on touchdowns when they get into Clemson territory, right? You're going to have to force this team to kick a couple field goals, right? You're going to have to bend but not break. I mean, you think about just the sheer talent that Florida State has on the offensive side of the ball. It starts with Jordan Travis, right? A Heisman candidate quarterback. I think he's fourth in Heisman odds right now. He's playing really well at times this season, and you got a Keon Coleman, right? You got a 6'4" wide receiver in Keon Coleman, transfer out of Michigan State. This dude has been an absolute baller. If you take the Boston College game out of it, he's been unstoppable for Florida State this season, right? Jaheim Bell, transfer out of South Carolina, another weapon, okay, along the perimeter. Johnny Walker, he's like 6'6", freaking 27 and a half, whatever he is, right? 6'7" wide receiver, gigantic target. He's a matchup nightmare for defenses. Nate Wiggins and the rest of the Clemson secondary is going to have their hands full with those guys, right? Oh, and then you got Trey Benson coming out of the backfield, right? So by no means does Florida State have a shortage of offensive talent. They got a ton of offensive talent. But I do think this Clemson defense has the ability to bend but not break and slow down this FSU attack at times in the game, right? What it's going to take for Clemson's defense, it's going to take an immense effort, right? It's going to take relentless. It's going to take that killer instinct that we used to see with some of the older Clemson defenses when you had a Cleveland Farrell and a Christian Wilkins and those guys off that 2018 team, right? Those guys off that 2016 team. Those defenses were just nasty. They had an attitude about them. That's what it's going to take on Saturday. It's going to take an attitude. It's going to have to. This Clemson defense is going to have to have that mean streak in them. And this defensive line is going to have to flat out get after the quarterback. They're going to flat out have to get after Jordan Travis. If they let Jordan Travis sit back there, survey the field, Clemson will lose this game. That simple. Clemson will lose this game. Somehow pressure has to be manufactured for this Clemson defense. And I think our defensive line is capable of getting pressure. But one of the things that this Clemson defensive line has struggled with so far this season is the ability to get quarterbacks on the ground. Yeah, they've caused a lot of pressure. You saw them affect Riley Leonard in the pocket. What did he do? Well, in the third quarter, he turned it into a 50-yard touchdown run, right? And then he turned it into an 8-yard run here and a 10-yard run here and a 5-yard run here and a 4-yard run here, right? So they have to stay true to their rushing lanes. They got to bottle Jordan Travis up. They have to affect him in the pocket. They got to make him uncomfortable. One of the things that I would be worried about if I was a Florida State fan. Now, I don't wish injury on any player, but Jordan Travis went down with an injury last week. You have to wonder how healthy that non-throwing shoulder is. Now, he came out in the second half, and I think the first pass of the second half was like a 50-yard bomb, right? However, I don't think you're going to be able to consistently do that to this Clemson defense. So much like I said again about Cade, at a certain point against this Clemson defense, Jordan Travis is going to have to go get it with his legs. He's going to have to go out there and sacrifice his body to get a first down or to move the chains or to get a third and 4 instead of a 3rd and 11, right? He's going to have to go out there and sacrifice his body at some point against a defense as good as Clemson is. So how comfortable is he going to be doing that with that shoulder? How much of a lingering issue is that? Now, I wish him the best of health, but that's a legitimate question that you have to ask. And then the secondary. I think our secondary has been much improved this season. We have not let that big play happen like we did a lot last season. We have kind of contained the big play. We haven't let explosive plays happen. And if we hope to be in this game and we hope to set our offense up and put them in a position to be the most effective against Florida State's defense, Clemson's defense is going to have to limit that explosive play. And that's something that Florida State has done really well this season. They got a ton of explosive plays. Clemson hasn't given up a lot of explosive plays. So you got to ask yourself, who's going to win come Saturday at 12 noon? That's an interesting question there.
Absolutely. Wanted to hit this super chat real quick. Steel Gamble with the $5. He says, got to figure Florida State will blitz a lot, so Shipley in the screen game could be huge. Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of Will Shipley in the passing game as well. They're going to be aggressive, and they're going to. I think Garrett Riley's going to take some of that aggression and use it against them.
Yeah, I mean, if what I've heard from Florida State fans is true, if Will Shipley is the one that kind of gashes them, they're going to lose their minds. They're going to lose their minds. What I've heard from Florida State fans is they're keying on Will Shipley. They're tired of this dude going out there and kind of exploiting their defense. So if what Steel Gamble says is true, I think there's going to be some Florida State fans out there that are super unhappy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's your best offensive player. I think that's. I mean,
you think about it when you got a guy like Will Shipley, right? What's a blitz killer? A screen pass.
Yep.
And when you got a guy as dynamic as Will Shipley to catch it out of the backfield and can do what he can do with the ball in his hands, Florida State might want to be careful with that one.
Yeah, and I think they're wary of Phil Maffa as well. I mean, you go back to that 2021 game. I mean, Phil Maffa had that huge run where it's just he could not be brought down. Like it was, I was in the stadium for that game, and the as dead as the crowd was at times because we were struggling so bad on offense. When he broke that huge run, like it was like Phil Maffa is every bit. And he's playing some really good football right now. He's arguably played better than Shipley, through 3 games so far. I think that's going to be tough for this Florida State defense to handle, and that's going to be a big part of this game. I want to see a lot of 2-back sets. We've talked about it a lot, but it forces defenses to be really, really disciplined, and it kind of forces them to kind of hold back and really read their keys and stay disciplined with their eyes. So that's something I want to see as well. But back to the the defensive side of the ball. We talked about this Florida State passing game, but you're going to have to be disciplined in this run because, like Garrett Riley's offense, Mike Norvell, not just at Florida State, but at Memphis and everywhere he's been, running the ball and being able to run the ball effectively is what makes that offense tick. And last week against Boston College, they didn't run the ball poorly, but they didn't run the ball as effectively as they wanted to. I don't think Trey Benson, had the kind of game that people were expecting. He wasn't as effective as they were hoping. Lawrence Toafili is a really talented back. He's really athletic, but he's not really an every down back. And they kind of use him more as a scat back, and they'll split him out wide, put him in the slot, make him run routes, let him run routes out of the backfield. They do a lot of stuff with him, but he's not an every down back, and he's not one that that is particularly effective in traditional handoffs. And then they also have I know Florida State fans in particular want to see more Rodney Hill. I think he's a really talented guy. It's really speed is pretty good, but he might not have that experience. So I think keying in on that run game is going to be huge, and it would be really great if Clemson's defensive line is blowing up the run, blowing up run plays without much help from the second level, because that makes things even more difficult. Because now, as much as Florida State runs play action, if you can keep less guys in the box and still stop the run. That's every defensive coordinator's dream. So if they still have issues, running the ball, because BC was able to blow up some of those runs. If Clemson can do the same, I think that is a huge key to getting stops and putting them behind the chains and making it easier to defend that explosive passing game. What do you think? Obviously, that means you have to have a big game from your defensive tackles. Tyler Davis, Rukaroro, Peter Woods. Those guys have to be disciplined. They have to be able to eat up. They're going to have to eat up blocks, and they're going to have to be able to tackle and bring Trey Benson, Jaheim Bell, who he may get carries out of the backfield because he has the ability to do that as well. You have to be able to bring those guys down and not allow too much after contact, especially because those guys are powerful and they're strong and they're athletic, and they can get tough yardage.
But I tell you what, if you were going to trust in any group on the defensive side of the ball, that's the deepest group that we have.
Yeah,
you talk about a Tyler Davis, a Rukaroro, Peter Woods that it's absolutely been balling out of his mind this year as a true freshman. I mean, the dude's insane, right? And look, if I had to trust in one group, because what you're saying is like we could just roll defensive tackle after defensive tackle out there. We can keep them fresh the whole game, regardless of the snap count, right? So that's a group that if you're relying on, that's the one you feel the most comfortable with, because not only do you have a bunch of depth there, there's not huge drop off when you start rolling other dudes in, right? As good as Tyler Davis is, as good as Rukaroro is, right? Peter Woods is that ain't really a step down if you're thinking about it, right? And other guys. So that's a good place to be if you're a Clemson fan, if that's the group that you're kind of leaning on the defensive side of the ball. And the DBs are look, they're going to have a day, man. There's going to be points where I think Wes Goodwin's going to blitz, and he's going to try to pressure and come after Jordan Travis, and they're going to have to be out there on islands. And, sometimes they're just going to have to get it done. And I feel confident that Nate Wiggins is ready, and that he is more than willing to get out there and get his hands dirty and be that defender. But it's not going to be just him out there. So, you got a Jaden Lucas, you got a Toriano Pride, you got Sheridan Jones. Thank you.
If Andrew Makuba is healthy, obviously he's going to be a game time decision. But if he's playing,
and that's
Khalil
another
Barnes,
injury guy.
Khalil
Barnes
he's going to play.
He's going to play a lot probably, especially with Andrew Makuba being a game time decision, questionable, whatever the case may be. And he had a great game against Florida Atlantic, but guess what? This ain't Florida Atlantic. So as happy as we were with Khalil Barnes last week, and as excited we are as Clemson fans with him as a player, there's a new test this week, and we're going to find out, right? So the secondary is going to be stressed in this game. We're going to find out how much better our pass defense has gotten from last year to this year. This is going to be the true test. This is where we find out how much we've improved on our pass defense. It's looked better this season, but this game right here, this is where we truly find out where it's at. So big test for the Tigers. Big test.
Absolutely. And that I think we've covered every aspect of the main part of the game, but the third phase of the game,
Hey, Do
They
we got a new
always
kicker?
goes. Yeah,
Did I hear we got a new kicker? What?
yeah. I think you did. I think I
Did I
heard
hear
the
that?
deal.
I
Um,
was reading something or I watched something before the show. I don't know. I heard we got a new kicker. What's up with that?
yeah. This is going to be. This might honestly be the most interesting part of this game.
I know, right?
It's kind of a weird. It's such a strange story, but yeah, if Clemson wants to win this game, special teams and particularly the kicking game is going to have to show up. And
Oh yeah.
through 3 games, it was not very good. It's pretty bad. So Dabo called an audible and literally pulled a guy from out in Charleston, South Carolina, to come kick. Jonathan White, former backup kicker. He was on the team last year and
Former BT Potter backup.
Yeah, BT Potter's backup who made 3 extra points in his career. So good for him. He was 3 for 3, by the way. He's taking online classes.
He ain't missed a kick yet.
Yeah, for his master's program, and was about to take a job in New York before Dabo gave him a call and was like, "Hey, want to come kick for us?" And he came down there. I think he went 7 for 8 in that Monday practice or Tuesday practice. I don't remember. It might have been Tuesday. And now he is Clemson's starting kicker for kicks, 35, 40 yards and shorter. As Dabo said, and this is the most honest I've ever heard a coach ever be about his kicker. He said it's either going to be a great story or it's going to be a disaster. And I don't know why I found that so funny, but
I tell you what, dude, this might be the most entertaining thing I've ever seen. It's quite hilarious what happened. I do feel for Robert Gunn. I do. But his career at Clemson is not over by any means. He's going to be a kicker at Clemson for a long time to come. I think he's going to develop into a pretty good one, if I had to guess. But frankly, he's just got the case of the yips, and you gotta, to Dabo's point, he found out that BT Potter's backup was available. He was in grad school, living in Charleston, South Carolina, taking online classes, about to move to New York in literally, I think he said 2 weeks, and decided to come back and kick for the Tigers. So I'm sure that was an interesting conversation with him and his new employer. That NIL must be something serious because he turned down a whole job to come back and kick for Clemson. I don't know.
Well, he postponed it. They gave him.
I'm being a little facetious there, obviously, but I just like to poke fun at the crowd that constantly wants to talk about NIL and Clemson. That was a good opportunity for me. But it'll to Dabo's point, it'll be great or it'll be terrible. There's not much else to say about it. I don't know what it's going to look like. Dabo said, according to his press conference, he's good from 45 in. So I guess we'll see Saturday, because I guarantee you Saturday he's going to have to make a kick. I guarantee he's going to have to make a kick. So we'll see how good he is from 45 in. There's not much else to say about it, other than it's kind of funny. And it maybe it's some crazy story one day that Dabo can tell, I guess, calling some dude off the bench in online grad school to kick a field goal against Florida State the week of. We'll see how it goes, but I don't know. It's a funny story. It's a crazy thing to think about. But at least he's kicked the field goal before. I guess that's what we have going for us. But as far as being super confident in the special teams deal, like if it comes down to a kick, I might have a heart attack. I don't know.
I'm gonna expect. I'm just every time we, on
Can you
Saturday.
imagine this dude lining up with like 3 seconds to go
Oh
for
dear
like
God.
for like a 47-yard field goal, and it's knotted up like, I don't know, 28-28 or 27-20, yeah, whatever, right? And this is like, let's do one even better, like Florida State's winning by like 2 or something, and this is 3 seconds to go. This dude lines up from 47. Like, can you imagine that on Saturday? I hope for my health, I hope that does not happen, because
Don't even speak
that
that.
would not be good. Uh,
Don't even speak that into existence, man. I'm not very old,
oh,
but I'm not too young to have a heart attack.
I don't think under them circumstances that anyone's too young to have a heart attack at that
Yeah,
point,
no.
honestly.
Lord have mercy.
But
Yeah, that's that. eh, I'm gonna knock on wood here. It can't get any worse, I don't think. So it could be just as bad, unless he like kicks it. He kicks right to the defender and they take it for a touchdown. I think that's about the only thing that could go wrong at this point. And now that I said it, it's going to happen, and Florida State's going to.
Yeah, don't say that. That's going to be our one turnover of the game, Jordan. Thanks. This will be great. But no, it's look, it's going to be a great game, man. Honestly, I think whatever way it goes, it's gonna be a close game, in my opinion. I know some people are predicting blowouts. I think you're crazy if you predict a blowout. That's just me. Um, the betting lines are always, are keeping it super close. I think it really could go either way, but honestly, regardless of what team wins, I don't really see a big margin of victory for either team. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I do think this will be I do think this will be a close game. I think there are things that Clemson is going to have to do better than they have all year in order to win.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think that people, there's a good amount of people that are selling this Clemson team short as far as their ability to be competitive in this game. I don't think they're as bad as they looked against Duke, and quite frankly, I don't think Florida State in some ways is as good as they looked against LSU. So I think this, I think this is a and I think and we already talked about it. There's a reason that the line hasn't moved despite 90% of the money going in for Florida State. So that tells you a lot about how the people, especially in the betting world, seem to think this is closer to a toss up than it is a Florida State domination. So with that being said, I think it's time for us to give our official score predictions. I'm not gonna
put your money where your mouth. Well, I shouldn't say money where your mouth is, because I ain't betting anything on this game. But
no, I'm not touching it. And I think the big
predictions where our mouth is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the big handicappers and big name bettors are staying away from this game, which is part of the reason why I think the line hasn't moved as well.
Who in their right mind would bet this Florida State Clemson game?
Yeah,
I have no idea. Like,
I wouldn't.
I don't bet Clemson games anyway, because I'm a Clemson fan, and I feel like that's probably just bad luck, especially if I put money on Clemson. Then I feel like they're going to lose just because, right? But I wouldn't touch this bet even if I did bet on Clemson games. There's no way I would touch this line.
Absolutely.
What is the line now? I think it opened up at what, 1.5, and then it went to 2.5, and then now it's at 2.
Yeah,
am I right in that?
I think so. Honestly, I'll let me probably look it up.
I'm pretty sure it opened up at 1.5, and then it went to 2.5, and now most recently when I looked today, before I came to my daughter's softball practice, it was at 2, I believe. and that was according to the ESPN website. So,
it probably depends where you look to. I think there's
oh
two
yeah,
and
I'm sure it's different. I'm sure it's different with different betting agencies and
I think the
different media
consensus,
outlets.
I think the consensus is 2.5 though. You can
Two and a
find
half.
two. You can find twos elsewhere in certain books, but I think the consensus is 2.5. Man, and that makes it so hard because that's it's a cross bet key number.
Yep.
And a team winning by a field goal, that's one of the most common results in football.
Yes, it is.
So it is. That makes it so tough. I'm just going to say, well, because I guess I'm not going to give my spread prediction because it's going to give away my score prediction. I think.
Yeah.
Well, it might give away my score prediction. But I'm gonna just come out and say I have been going back and forth on this game all week. There are times where I thought Clemson. I felt like Clemson was going to win. There have been times this week where I felt like Florida State is going to win. I've gone back and forth, and I finally I settled on a result today. I'm going to stick by it. I'm going to go 30-27, Florida State. And I know that's not going to – I'm sure the Clemson fans watching are probably not too happy about that. But –
oh, my goodness, dude.
I think my problem with this matchup, I think, is I have not seen Clemson I have not seen them take advantage of their opportunities the way that I think this team is going to need to be able to in order to win this game.
Look at that.
Oh, there it is. Okay, you wrote mine down. Awesome. All right.
No.
Oh, you flipped it.
I had this written down before the show.
Oh my God! Wow. And guys, we did not. I'm letting you guys know we do not. Tell each other our predictions.
I had it up here. I had it up here on my dash the entire show, and it was Clemson 30, Florida State 27.
That's pretty incredible.
Swear to God.
Wow. You can't even make this up. But yeah, we don't share our predictions, before the show. So we're pretty much in lockstep. We think this is the type of game that is going to be, and I think it's a first to 30 type of game. The line, the over under isn't very much. I think it's only at it's only 55. So there are a lot of people that think that Florida State's going to score a bunch of points, and it's like Florida State's offense is so good, and Clemson's not going to be able to get stops.
I don't think so, man.
I don't see that at all. So I think I think this is a first to 30 type of game, and I'm going to lean Florida State, and I hate saying it, and I'm probably going to regret this when I go to sleep tonight, and my prediction is going to change. I might feel like Clemson's going to win the Saturday morning, so who knows? But right now, I'm leaning Florida State in a tight one. I don't think that this is a game that Clemson is outmatched in at all. Contrary to what people think, I think Clemson absolutely can win this game. But I'm going to take. I'm predicting a Florida State victory by 3 points. But I think you can go. But I think Clemson. I think the opposite can happen as well. I think it's a first to 30 type of game.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny, full transparency for my prediction, and I know I told you guys my score prediction already, but full transparency how I do my predictions for Clemson. Some games I have a pretty good feel of where I'm going to go. Other games like this game this week, I literally wrote this down in my car. Like as me and Jordan were or before I got on with Jordan backstage, before we came on and did our show. So when I reacted when he said this score, 30-27, Florida State. That's why I reacted so much. I was like, "There's no way," because I wrote down Clemson 30, Florida State 27. Right? I truly do think it's going to be a super close game. I think it's going to be an absolute back and forth type deal. Um, but I think the Tigers come out on top. I I struggle with this back and forth. I had Florida State winning for most of the week, and then just probably 10 or 15 minutes before this show, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm deciding to go with my Tigers. This may be a pick more with my heart than with my head, but I think the Tigers get it done, man. I think the Tigers defense are able to hold Florida State to a couple field goals, and then Clemson makes a drive in the fourth quarter or towards the end of the game, touchdown drive by Cade Klubnik to end the game. So I could see this going, sort of like that, 30-27. Clemson wins. That's by 3 points. So obviously I have Clemson to cover. Obviously I have Clemson winning the game. I would not be surprised if Florida State won the game at all, but I couldn't bring myself to pick Florida State. I still believe in this Clemson team. I think this defense is good enough to get it done. I think this offense can get just enough points to get it done. But hopefully it's a great day in the Valley. Regardless, me and Jordan will be right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel for a live reaction, a post-game live video immediately following the Clemson-Florida State game, regardless of whether we win or lose. So everybody who's here right now, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. And definitely come join us for the post-game live video that'll be right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel immediately following the Florida State-Clemson game this Saturday.
Absolutely. And, we will be here. If Clemson wins by 50, if Florida State wins by 50, we're going to be here no matter the result, as we have been, all last season and this year. And so make sure you guys, tune back in. Probably, I guess the game will end around 2:33. So we'll be live pretty soon after that game to break it all down and discuss with you guys and chop it up. So make sure you tune in. Florida State fans, you're welcome as well. I've seen some of you guys in the chat. It's been pretty chippy. I've noticed as we've been going through. There have been some pretty heated debates between the fans, but we welcome all of that as long as it's respectful.
Absolutely.
And we're not name calling or anything like that. So just keep the trash talk about football, and that's all we ask. But yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a great game Saturday, and like we said, this is a big opportunity for this Clemson football team. I hope my prediction is wrong, and I hope that.
I hope so.
I hope when we go live. I hope when we go live Saturday afternoon that you guys are dunking all over me for picking Florida State to win the game. Nothing would make me happier than to be wrong about this game. And I think I would take a win any way it comes, but that's just kind of how I feel right now. And I could
I don't
like I said, I could wake up tomorrow or Saturday and feel differently.
I don't blame you at all for picking Florida State. Like I said, I was probably more on the fence with Florida. I was more on the Florida State side for majority of this week. And then, I don't know. And like I said, this might be more of a pick with my heart. But I just feel like this is how it's going to go. I think it's going to be a super close game. I think it's going to be another nail biter in Death Valley. And I went back and I thought about it, and I said, if it is a nail biter and it truly is a close game, if it's in Death Valley, I'm going to ride with my Tigers because 9 times out of 10, We just don't lose in Death Valley very often. Um, and I think you could cherry pick a few games where, we've lost and probably gotten, blown out in Death Valley, but it's not something that Clemson does a lot. I think Clemson's home winning streak goes back to actually their being an underdog at home goes all the way back to, I think Mark Rogers was saying, 7 years since Clemson has been an underdog at home. So
since that Louisville game,
that just tells you, the home field advantage that Clemson holds in Death Valley, the magnitude of a game in Death Valley, and believe me, it's already sold out. So just because it's a noon game, it's gonna be rocking in the Valley. Are you going to the game by chance, Jordan?
No, I am not, and I was kind of disappointed because the noon time kind of ruins pretty much all of my plans. And so I will not be at the game, so unfortunately, but I'm definitely going to try to be at some of the other bigger games, and hopefully they're not all nooners like this one. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing, but hey, we'll still be here regardless. After the game, to chop it up with you guys, and break it all down.
Absolutely, we'll be right here.
And
if you guys,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Jordan. You're good.
And I was just gonna say, like, because some people are upset with me. I'm not going to, I'm not going to tell you guys. I'm not going to lie to you guys about how I personally feel about a game. That's something I'm never going to do on this show. Something
Absolutely.
that's something that Craven is never going to do on this show.
Absolutely not.
We want to be honest, and we don't want to just say everything is great and everything is awesome just because the most of our audience is Clemson fans. We're going to tell you guys when we don't feel good about something. We're going to tell you when we do feel good about something. And I right now at this current moment, I feel like Florida State. I feel like Florida State is going to win, but I could feel differently tomorrow. I could feel differently Saturday. It is what it is, but I'm locking it in. This is my official prediction. So whether I wake up Saturday morning and feel like Clemson's going to win, you guys come and hold me to it. A Florida State victory if I'm wrong, and you can dunk on me all you want in the chat. I will be the happiest person ever in history to be roasted for being wrong, like ever, because I know how I know how great of a win this would be for this team, and kind of the confidence and what it would mean for the season going forward, and for the program. In other notes, this is going to be a big recruiting weekend for Clemson as well. So, not just for 24, but 25 as well. 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders will be there. 5-star athlete Elijah Griffin is going to be there. So there's going to be some big time Clemson recruits at this game, and I think it's going to be a really awesome environment, and a really good recruiting opportunity for this team as well. So especially to get a win, that'd be great.
Hey, and look, I know some people are upset in the comment section with Jordan Bowman. Look, you guys do not realize how close I was to making a similar prediction that he did. And, to his point, look, we are on here. We are giving you our full transparent reactions. This is part of the reason that we never share our score predictions or our game predictions with each other prior to when we're live on the show with you guys. I had no idea he was going to pick 30-27 Florida State. I wrote down literally before the show started, 15 minutes before the show started, I was out here watching my daughter warm up and play softball, and I was like, okay. And this is kind of how I do every prediction. I just kind of feel it, right? As weird as that sounds, I'm just like, all right, what do I think this is going to be? Just a feeling of both teams. I wrote 30-27 Clemson. And that's just our transparent reactions. We also do post game lives here. So we will never run from any prediction that we do. We will be right here. And we don't even get time to digest the game. We just see the game, it goes off. 5-10 minutes later, we're right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel, and we're live giving you our immediate post game reactions.
Raw reactions.
Yeah, our raw, unfiltered. We haven't calmed down yet. We haven't, got a new perspective yet. We haven't talked it through with, our therapist at all. We just come to you with our raw reactions on Saturday, right after games. It's an exciting time. Those of you that are in here right now, if you have not already liked the video, please go ahead and hit that like button for us. It's free. It's easy. Help the channel out. Me and Jordan work really hard on this channel. We try to bring you guys the best Clemson content that we possibly can, along with Mark Rogers, along with Jason Priester, and all the other contributors right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. But go ahead and hit that like button for us. And then, if you're a Florida State fan, guess what? Subscribe, man. Hang around. It's all good. We talk college football as well. We don't talk all Clemson football. We talk college football as well. So come join us. Share it in your football forums. Share it with your friends. We would love to grow our audience. That's always our goal, to grow and bring more people in so that we broaden our horizons and we have a bigger overall conversation about not only Clemson football, but college football in general. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, to all of you, Clemson fans, Florida State fans, Notre Dame fans. We got Will and D-Rock Irish in here as well.
Absolutely.
All fan bases are welcome here. So thank you guys for tuning in. As we sort of wrap up the show, we want to take some, we'll take some your listener questions, anything from not just Clemson fans but other fans as well about this game before we kind of wrap it up. So get those in.
We'll give you guys a couple of minutes to get those questions in. But what are you doing for game day, Jordan? What's your plans for game day?
Yeah, I still really don't know. It's probably going to be one of those games where I cannot watch it with anybody else, and going to hole up. Well, not really hole up, but just watch it on my couch and pray to God that this team wins this game, because this is one of those games where it's been nerve-wracking all week just thinking about this game, just the anticipation. I'm just ready for the game to be played now. That's probably what I'm going to be doing. I cannot watch. I cannot watch some of these games with other people because it makes me too. Well, you know what I'm talking about. It's a very interesting experience, a stressful experience.
It gets rough for sure.
Yeah. D-Rock, thank you for the kind words. He says, appreciate this podcast. It's called Genuine, and none of this is fan fake. Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you. We're going to give you our authentic opinions. We're never going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. Maybe sometimes we do say what you want to hear, but sometimes but we're not going to do that for the sole purpose of it. We're going to tell you how we feel. And hey, we're split on this game. We don't agree with each other. So
absolutely. Yep.
John gets in. He says, how much are you expecting to see P-Wood? I mean, I think you have to see him a lot. I think a ton. He's a guy that teams have to game plan for by himself. And he's the guy that hasn't racked up the statistics because he's been eating up double teams and really being disruptive up the middle. And that's the life of a defensive tackle. You're not, very few ever rack up, sacks and stuff like that. But when you watch him on the film, he really does have a huge impact on the play. And I think you'll see him a good bit. Tiggs gets in. He says, so you both say a 3-point game. Will it be a 5-quarter? So I guess an overtime game. It could be. I think so. I think that's very much in in the cards. I think these two teams are, especially in this environment, are. I think they'll be pretty competitive and evenly matched, and it's just about who comes out in the end. I just feel like Clemson has left too many points on the board in the past, and I think that could be the difference. And the uncertainty we have with in the kicking game could be an issue as well. But that's just kind of how I feel. David, wait, hold on. He had 2 comments. He says, by the way, Jordan, love your late night college football group show. Yeah. If you guys don't know, on the main Mark Rogers College Football channel, every Sunday night we have a show called College Football After Dark. Me exploring with Ben, Tim Prangley, some of the regulars from the main channel. We go live at 10. Well, I think it's 10:45 ish. It depends on it. It kind of moves around a little bit. But late, 10 ish, to closer to 11. When we just talk about the games on Saturday and just kind of chop it up. It's a fun little panel where we give each other a hard time and we interact with you guys. Check that out as well because that show is a lot of fun.
And let her know I'm finishing up my show.
What else? Let's see. Oh, he also gets in and he says they starved Keon Coleman last week. He wants to eat. Yeah, and that's something that has kind of been under the radar about this Florida State team is there are a lot of guys on this team. It's a blessing and a curse because you have so many mouths to feed on that Florida State offense, and there are so many guys in that offense that are thinking NFL draft. A lot of these are 3rd, 4th plus year guys that are going to be draft eligible this year and want to get that shine and get that ability to raise their draft stock. So that's something that's kind of an underrated aspect of Florida State, and I'm interested to see how they manage that throughout the year because there are a lot of guys that are going to want touches. Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, Jaheim Bell, Trey Benson. Winston. We talked some of their slot guys, Winston Wright. There are a lot of weapons on this team that are that want to get shine and want to build their draft stock on both sides of the ball. Jared Verse is a guy that came back. He forewent the NFL draft. Fabian Lovett, one of their best defensive tackles, he came back. And staved off the NFL for another. They still want to, they want to get that shine. So that managing of personalities and star power is kind of a tough thing to deal with sometimes, and making sure that everybody eats that can be a tough thing.
And that's something that we talked about in the off season, right, Jordan? On this show, I know for sure is just the ability to manage all that. Look, it's great to bring in proven players, but making it work is even more difficult to do. So it's not always a plug and play type situation. So that is an issue. But look, they definitely should have got Keon Coleman the ball more. I can tell you that he had one catch in that BC game. Not good enough.
Yep.
Not good enough. I understand his frustration.
D Rock gets in. He says key factor for the Clemson FSU game. I think it's very simple. Who runs the ball better? I think that's it. Whether it's the traditional run game, quarterback run game, all of that put together. Who gets more yardage on the ground and who stays ahead of the chains?
Yeah,
I think that's very much
one of those cliche games, right? But or one of those cliche things in football. But lines of scrimmage, right?
Yeah.
Lines of scrimmage truly will decide this game, right? So running the football and then which team's ability to affect the quarterback with pressure. Which team is able to do that the best? They'll win this game. So
pretty simple, but I think
the
way both teams are constructed, I think that makes those
no earth-shattering news here, but
no.
Whatever team affects the quarterback more and whatever team runs the ball more effectively. I mean, that's just the plain and simple of it. It's not pretty, it's not clean, but It is what it is. That's how college football works, especially
Yep.
how this game's going to work.
Do you expect Shipley will finally get his rushing touchdown? Yeah, I think you will.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
I think
think he
so.
gets 2.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
I think he gets
He's going to get a lot of burn in this game. I think he has to. Him and Maffa. Chase Brill, he says, "Love the streams, guys. Y'all are the best." Oh, we appreciate that, Chase. You are the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
sir.
for listening and continuing to support the show. So we appreciate those kind words. Anything else? Just Steel Gamble, an insane mob who credit to him. He's been going back and forth with everybody. He's kind of been a one-on-one.
Steel Gamble out there fighting the good fight.
Yeah, he's one on like a 1-on-20 battle in the comments right now. That's pretty impressive. But and he's confident about his Knowles, getting the dub. We'll see. Hey, insane mob, I want you to come back, regardless of the result.
Absolutely. Look, I encourage everybody in the comment section right now, come back, because me and Jordan will be here regardless. So whether you're a Clemson fan arguing for Clemson, whether you're a Florida State fan arguing for Florida State, come back. Let's have this same conversation. This same conversation, just a 2.0 version, this Saturday around 3:30, 3:45, whatever the time is that the game ends. Let's have the same conversation. We would love to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, insane mob, please come back. I mean, even if it's just for a little bit, because if Clemson wins, it's very easy to talk all this now. But if Clemson wins on Saturday, the odds of the people that talk the most on this show that coming back is very, very low. When it seems like the ones that talk the most always don't ever seem to come back when they're wrong. So I hope you're not one of those. He says, "Let me on the show and I'll come back." Yeah, that's not going to happen, buddy. But
that's not going to happen. We don't let people on the show.
I appreciate the effort, I guess. D-Rock Irish talking about cracking the nut in South Bend this weekend. That's right. They play the Buckeyes. I will be watching that game very closely. I will probably be rooting for the Irish in that game. And it does, and it brings more. If Clemson and Notre Dame both win, it brings more intrigue to that game in Death Valley later in the year as well. So,
absolutely.
John Seton, who was over there by the Tuesday night for the Not Bobby Durkin show. That was it was good to see you, and he has come on over to our show. So good to see you, man. He asks, where has XT been off of the edge? Yeah, I don't think Xavier Thomas has really been missing. I think you've seen him make impact plays. I think he's gotten pressure on the quarterback. There are times where he's looked really, really good. I don't think I think because he's not really getting the sack numbers that we were kind of hoping. It feels like he's not been effective, but I think he's played pretty well, and he's been disruptive. I think it's just the next step for him is getting to the quarterback and finishing and getting a sack. I don't think he's been missing, especially when I've gone back and rewatched the game. I've seen him affect a lot of plays that kind of go missing, that you kind of don't notice in the first watch. All right. I think. Oh well, we lost Tiger Paw Craven. He was probably heading on home. Okay, he's back, I think. But I think this is a good place to. This is a good place to end the show. We've been going for a good bit now. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. It's really been awesome to do this show every week, and it's been awesome to see you guys interested in hearing what we have to say about Clemson football. So only thing you guys have to do is keep showing up, keep hitting that like button. We're trying to build this channel, and yeah, Clemson fans, Florida State fans, anybody that's listening, feel free to come back because of course we will be live in Saturday afternoon following the Clemson Florida State game to give you our raw, unfiltered reactions about the game, whether it's positive or negative. It's going to be a good time. So make sure you guys tune on in. But until then, I'm Jordan Bowman. I'm going to let. I think Tiger Paw has had some issues with his internet. You there, man? Maybe not. But until then, I'm Jordan Bowman. He's Tiger Paw Craven. Thank you guys for tuning in. But until next time, go Tigers. Beat the Seminoles.